let's talk about Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr spending all season working on podcast takes. He's stealing all of my takes, Mo. First, he complains about the club music in NBA arenas. And now he's complaining about the officiating and the fact you can't play defense. Now, Mo, tell me, how much of this is because the Warriors lost and their defense stunk in this game? I mean, yeah, Jokic gets 18 free throws. That stinks. And we know that the NBA doesn't allow defense to be played. But Steve Kerr complaining about it at this point, I mean, after all these years of Steph Curry not getting calls, other guys getting calls against them because, you know, they do have a tendency to foul a lot. This is the game that pushes them over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, some of it has to do with them stinking. I mean, look, Jokic getting 18 free throws when he averages 6.3 a game is a bit surprising. But I think some of that might have to do with Jokic not getting the calls. And I think that might be more of a case there in that regard. But yeah, I mean, Kerr's frustrated with the team and the roster and the way the season has gone so far. I mean, it's been frustrating time. You got to deal with Draymond all the damn time. I imagine, you know.
Well, they're not dealing with Draymond right now.
I'm sure he's I'm sure he's getting text messages from Draymond and all of those things. But I think, you know, you and Seth are the ones that are annoyed with the music takes and things like that. You know,
I'm not annoyed with the take. I'm annoyed with the music itself. That's what I'm saying. I see what Steve Kerr's doing here. This is it. He's quiet quitting, Mo. He's preparing for a career in podcasting for next season. I think he's
seeing how good Bob Myers has it, and he's jealous he didn't go first.
That's it.
I think
he doesn't want to deal with this Draymond stuff anymore. He's over it. He doesn't want to deal with having to play Jonathan Kuminga more.
Yeah, I think the bigger issues for this team, though, is I think defensively they got to get back to kind of their principles and whatnot. And I think the other thing with that is they need to find offense. I thought Kuminga was pretty good in this game for the most part. They didn't play Moody much, but you know what? They got a pretty good Andrew Wiggins game. I mean, he took over a little bit in the fourth quarter, or tried to take over a bit in the fourth quarter. Thought they got a good Klay Thompson game. But also at the end of the day, you're playing the defending champs. Denver's really good, folks. Like, it's not a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, we talked about Jokic. It was not a great Jokic game, by the way. But the fact that the Nuggets can withstand a not great Jokic game against a Steph Curry-led Warriors team tells you a lot. Jamal Murray down the stretch was insane. This was playoff performance, Jamal Murray.
Before we get to that, because I do want to get on that, we got to talk about the start that Michael Porter Jr. had to this game, because he set the tone early.
Well, it helps that Klay Thompson just falls asleep guarding off the ball.
Klay defensively was a lot of issues, but even with that, he set the tone early, was cutting, was moving well off the ball, getting clean looks, had a probably one of the ugliest behind the back passes to an assist to KCP.
To KCP on the wing.
You know, but still, like, all that stuff. And then more importantly, he was defending. I mean, he blocked Klay at least 2 or 3 times. Like, I thought he was all over the place defensively. I thought he did a great job in this game, kind of setting the tone early. And I think that really put a lot of pressure on the Warriors defensively. And it took a little bit of pressure off of the other Nuggets guys. And that allowed Murray to conserve his energy to take over when he had to in the fourth quarter.
You know, and here's the thing. It's a continuation of a season-long thing for him. I mean, he's having a great year. He started out extremely well. I mean, one of the things we talked about was Michael Porter Jr. turning into this two-way player and the difference that it makes for them. But, I mean, he's 16 points a game, almost 8 rebounds, a half a steal, half a block, but shooting about almost 50-40 and 75 from the free throw line. I mean, the guy is just having like a complete season for them. I mean, he's been there. I'd say definitely offensively third best player.
Yeah, and that's what they need. They've needed him to step up. But now let's get to what we really want to talk about.
To be able to play off guys like Jokic and a guy like Murray that can do what he did yesterday. And in particular, by the way, it's not lost on me that he's doing this against Steph Curry.
Yep.
Yeah. It was almost, I'm not going to say this is a passing of the torch because Steph Curry is still better than Jamal Murray, I think. But this was a a high leverage game, and Jamal Murray shows up in these in a way that not a lot of players do. And he just took this thing over down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had just jumper after jumper. It looked like it was going to be a shootout for a minute, and then he kind of just went through it. And then he had probably the play that was kind of the dagger for me, coming off of a double screen. First, it's a switch, and he gets Curry on him, and Curry tries to come and beat him over the top of the second screen, and Murray just goes behind his back right into a three. And I mean, that was the dagger play. I mean, he was in killer mode. And I think that's great on a night where Jokic did struggle shooting wise. You know, he was 4 for 12 from the field and whatnot. I think the free throws allowed him to get all those points. But I think the Warriors, besides the fouls, did a pretty good job on Jokic. And I think, Murray just kind of stepping in and showing you like, hey man, I can still do this stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Are the Nuggets still the favorites to win the title for you?
Okay. Yeah. Why would they be any, like, what are we? I mean, yes, move on. Next question.
It's one of these things because you know where I'm coming from. Like we just, at this point, they're old hat, which is funny to say, because it's not like they've won multiple titles in a row, but they are a little bit old hat. Like that. I'm very comfortable with where they're at. The Warriors, on the other hand, every time we write them off, they have a game like the game against the Celtics last week, right? Where they just pull one out and it's like, okay, well, they still have Steph Curry. And when things are going right, it's like, oh, look, Moses Moody. Moses Moody plays 3 minutes in this game. I mean, are the Warriors really good enough to not play Moses Moody? I just don't understand.
Well, if they get the game they got from Wiggins, which I thought was a pretty good Wiggins game, yes, they're good enough where they can say, hey, we don't necessarily need Moses Moody to kind of step in. And then you also got to talk about Podziemski. Podziemski, excuse me. He was really good for them as well and has provided a good boost for them. But when you just go look at Wiggins coming off the bench, giving you 22 points, like that's a pretty strong number for them. And that's the scoring that they need to a degree. And I think that's an important view of those things. And I think, yes, I think if they're getting that game from Wiggins, then yes, they can kind of survive without Moody.
I still feel like they've got a trade to make. I mean, we've been kicking around fake Warriors trades for a few days now, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to swing anything big or not. Definitely not before Draymond comes back in a few weeks. This team, I don't know. They should be better, and a lot of this rests on Wiggins. Obviously, Clay was struggling a little bit there for a while, and he seems to have at least turned it around. Yesterday's game notwithstanding, but turned it around a little bit. So maybe they'll flip it around.